Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. If you are single, this fast-paced modern world of seemingly endless swiping, matching, and messaging brings about an epidemic of, let's just face it, detached, disengaged, and guarded dating and interacting. I mean, humans need connection, and we're not meant to be alone, but so many of you aren't showing up for the people you date. Social media culture of today, I mean, especially, it tells singles that an ordinary life isn't enough. So you're always looking for the next best thing. And you might even find yourself chasing unrealistic relationship goals, and sheer amount of options results in indecisiveness, decision fatigue, and constant comparisons between potential partners. And you might even be struggling to be seen and most importantly, being heard. Honest conversations are avoided. And as Brene Brown notes, vulnerability is seen as a weakness because people confuse feeling with failing and emotions with liabilities. I love that. This all leads to something that seems almost to be an epidemic these days. And that is what I am calling detached dating. Because basically, it's like dating as if you are just numbing out with a blindfold on. Maybe there's like game playing, guessing what the other person is feeling, thinking, assuming you know things when you don't, or worse yet, just not getting out in the world and meeting people, for God's sake, period. In order to avoid getting hurt, you may not even allow yourself to get too close. And if you get too close, then you're avoiding conflict in order to not ruin things. So, what can you do to have a more authentic dating experience where you can make connections that count when dating? After all, the goal is not to just meet someone, but to have an actual meaningful relationship. And simply, where can you even meet people that are interested in you, that you're interested in them, and make it count? Well, I will say they're everywhere, but I'll never forget the story of a client that I worked with. And as most of you know, I go out into the world with you and I help you flirt and interact with people. So, it's funny. A lot of people have been calling me Hitchat lately, if you know the reference of Hitch. But I'll never forget, I was with my client and we were passing a bar and there was a party going on. And I stopped immediately because I felt the energy. And I said to my client, "Ooh, let's go into the bar where the party is." And she's like, "Well, we can't do that." I said, "Why not?" She's like, "Well, we're not invited. We don't know what kind of party it is." I said, "Well, we won't know until we go in. And the worst thing that they could say is no. And the best thing that they could do is say yes." So, of course, we walk in and I was teaching her how to navigate the room and to find the leader of the party. And it turns out it was some fitness party and they were promoting their fitness center. So, of course, they were happy that we crashed the party. But more importantly, helping her navigate the room and figure out where all the boys were. And I said, "Look, let's just settle in and just start talking to men." Well, I can't make this stuff up. It happens a lot because obviously, like, there's an intention with this. But we end up meeting this gentleman. She starts talking to him. I leave to go to the restroom. I come back and they're still talking. And an hour later, they're still talking. That guy ended up being her boyfriend. Now, this all happened because we crashed a party that she didn't think that we should, go to. And the point of that story is that you have to make things happen. And when you make things happen, then you have to be intentional about it. The truth is, you can meet people everywhere and anywhere you go, but you have to be intentional. Take time to make connections and share personal stories and emotions to have it be meaningful. So today, I have someone who definitely knows how to create impactful and powerful connections that really count. He is the visionary founder of the world's first luxury concierge that delivers the highest level of personalized travel, transportation, and cutting-edge entertainment services to corporate executives, celebrities, professional athletes, and other individuals interested in living life to its fullest. He is a sought-after speaker who tells the truth the only way he knows how, directly, blatantly, and fearlessly. He has hung out and jammed with celebrity recording artists such as Guns N' Roses drummer Matt Sorum and played guitar with ZZ Top's Billy. He closed a museum in Florence for a private party for six at the feet of the Michelangelo's David and had Andrea Bocelli come in and serenade the guests. Oh my God, I wish I was there. He worked for royalty, presidents, A-list celebrities, the rich and famous, and he's even spoken at the Pentagon. He obviously knows a thing or two about making connections. And now I'm so privileged to be connected to him. Steve Sims, are you there?
I am. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I was so excited to have you on today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, I know a little bit about your story, obviously, because I was just reading about you in some of our conversation. And I love that how we met at this conference we were at. But I'd love for you to share your story a little bit, your backstory, like what got you into just this whole field of making connections. I love it.
I was pissed off I didn't have any.
Ah.
That's that's the that's the originator. We could fancy it up, and actually, I don't even think we could. I was a kid in London, got kicked out of school, got in loads of trouble because I wasn't focused. We've all heard this ADHD. You're going to end up in prison and all this kind of thing. You can't pay attention. I didn't have anything worth paying attention to. I was an entrepreneur, so I needed someone to grab my attention, and nothing was grabbing it. And so I realized at that time that the people that I was with were not the people I should have been with. And they were all settling. They were all like, well, we're going to do this for 50 years and then retire and have a shitty little house in the middle of nowhere. And that's fine if that's for you. But there was something in me that bothered me. And I needed to have a conversation. I needed to have a conversation with someone that was successful and go, hey, I'm a bricklayer. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I get cut, bashed, smashed up. Then I go home at 8 o'clock at night. So I can work a hard day, but I'm not making the money, So how come you are in your fancy car and your jets and your yachts? How come you're working smart while I'm working hard? Now, of course, this was in the 80s and 90s where I didn't have Instagram to point out how inadequate my life was. So, we just didn't have access to that. Fast forward now, we've got a tremendous amount of information at our fingertips, even though a good 80% of it is bullshit. So I needed to surround myself with people and basically podcast them before podcasting existed. So I tried getting into jobs that surrounded me with affluent people. I got fired from them all, ended up being a doorman of a nightclub, and then started cherry picking people in the room that I thought was affluent. Soon learned the difference. There were people that pretend they're affluent, and then there are people that are affluent, and they act, walk, sound, and treat each other differently. And they can smell each other. And so I started to get a PhD in human psychology from the front door of a shitty nightclub in Hong Kong, and slowly started going, hey, if you want to stay after, I'll shut the door and you can keep the bar, and just started bringing value to the table. Hey, there's a premiere party going on down the road. Are you going? And just trying to be something that would make them want to connect with me. I've always been a great believer that if you can give before you receive, then that's what'll be a connection. And so I always pushed from that very early on. My whole goal, my entirety, was to surround myself with affluent, successful people. The byproduct was that I ended up launching the world's first experiential concierge firm that you mentioned, Bluefish. Sold that many years ago, did a book called Bluefishing, did another one last year called Go for Stupid. And now I travel the planet teaching, training, and running my own community on how to build authentic, leverageable, and scalable relationships.
I love that. It's really inspirational because I talk to a lot of people, I'm sure you do too, who are in kind of that dark place that you were in where nothing was really working, right? And
Mhm.
we know this, we talk about this all the time, being in that almost scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset. And I really am hearing that switch that happened to you. But how did you get out of that mindset? Like, was there like tools or something that you did? I think it would be really helpful for other people to know, because I know a lot of people are in, say, a dark place in their dating life, or they're feeling lonely and they feel like there isn't an abundance of people out there that they can meet.
We're in an excuse economy, and we look for
Yeah.
reasons that it failed. We look for reasons that it didn't go our way. We look for reasons where it could have been better. 9 times out of 10, you're the problem. You may be talking to the wrong people. You may
Mm.
be trying to go and dating today. My God, I think I'd rather swim to see the Titanic. It's a tough, dangerous minefield where, as you said quite openly, we're in a society where we're actually scared of being who we are. So
Yeah.
what do? We pretend that we're someone different and then wonder why the person didn't connect with us. It was because we weren't given a connectable person. We were given a front. We were given an armor. It's like wearing a suit of armor and then wondering why you can't feel the person. So when I notice how people actually use the excuses, the first thing you got to ask yourself, well, okay, is the problem me?
Mm.
You know, classic Taylor Swift. Hello, I'm the problem. You know, find out first of all if you're showing up, and that, funny enough, was, I would probably say, my biggest talent.
Mm.
And I didn't realize it. I'd love to sit here and go, well, I knew it. No, I didn't. And in fact, I screwed it up later on in life. But in the early stages, I didn't know how to build a persona. I didn't know
Yeah.
how to pretend to be someone. I was so kind of like deer in headlights looking at you going, oh, I want to be of value to you. How can I help you? Oh, if I can get you into this private party, you'll talk to me, rather than trying to be the slick willy here going, hey, maybe I can help you, and trying to put on some kind of persona as some kind of know-it-all. And I noticed today that seems to be the issue. We're not showing up as us.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was too stupid, too ignorant, too lazy to put on a persona, but I also saved time. You see, you
Mm.
talking about, you're constantly going on dates. Knowing how to run a good business, the first thing you've got to do is be involved in a bad one. Knowing how to have a good relationship means you've got to know how to be in a bad one. Knowing how to ask a good question means you've got to have asked 1,000 bad questions. So if you're sitting there going, oh my God, I'm having bad date after bad date after bad date, good. That's the momentum you need to fine tune, to know when you get that one, you go, I've earned this position. Now let's work with it. So, it is a numbers game, but it's also a training game. You've got to deserve what you get. And let's all be blunt. You think getting a relationship's tough, be in one.
Mhm. Mhm.
I've been married to my wife now for, God, I'm probably going to get in trouble now.
Long
30,
pause.
yeah, 31. I think it's 31 or 32 years.
Mm.
Okay. I'm going to say that's a fair amount of time.
It's a fair
Uh,
amount.
yeah. Has it been rosy? Hell no. Has there been times when we thought, okay, maybe we need to call it? Many a time. So it's always a work in progress.
Yeah, I I really love that. And to me, almost as a reframe, when you said like look at you because you're the common denominator basically. To me, that's where the empowerment comes in, right? Because we
Yeah.
can't change what's around us. All we can do is look at ourselves and change something about us to get a different result. And to me, that's awesome, you know.
Yeah.
Um the funny thing that you said, and it's so true, it is how we look at people and look at the world. It's like that mindset thing that has to shift. There was a woman and she kept referring to like getting out there as the jungle. I'm like, you keep referring this like scary jungle place. Like, no wonder it's scary for you because you keep referring it as a scary. I mean,
Yeah.
there's lions, there's tigers, there's bears. Oh my, like there's scary things. And I said, what if you looked at it as a playground? What if you looked at it as a kid that was just swinging on the swings and going on the seesaw and having a bunch of play dates, not worrying about what was next? And she's like, oh, like it was a complete like shift in her body. And like I saw it when I said that. And from that moment on, she really had a different like way of moving through life. She was more positive. She was literally like skipping after we like worked together. So it's so true. Half the battle is us getting in that mindset. Um, but yeah, go ahead.
You've got a lot of followers here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they've listened to you before, and I'm sure they've picked up on stuff before, but they need to harness what you've just said as everything.
Hmm.
I have worked with some of the most powerful people in the planet, and whether it's launching a business, launching a career, launching a relationship, when you look at it as a fight versus a play, the mindset will be the fuel and the killer. You see, we can fight, and I'll get in a punch up, but you'll only have a punch up for 5 minutes. But you can play all day long.
Yeah.
So when you look at something as a fight, all of a sudden your body gets tense. You think it's going to be a battle. So guess what? It becomes a battle because you're already in that zone, and you become restrictive on your movements, and you get tired, and you come home going, my God, that was tough. Of course it was. You failed before you went into battle. But if you turn around and go, this is going to be fun, I'm going to play here, all of a sudden you start enjoying yourself. And if you don't, then leave, but you're not carrying the baggage with you. And that's the key.
Yes. Beautiful. No, it's so, so true. And also not just the mindset and how we think, but also what we say out loud to other people, to ourselves. And this is a classic case too. It's that belief system that we have. And I had a client call me up and she's like, you're my last hope. This is how she starts the conversation. I'm like, okay, no pressure there. Right. And I said, okay, well, I'm not sure I can help you, but what's going on? She's like, well, I've scoured the earth and there are no good men out there. And you know what I said to her? I said, I believe you. She's like, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, I believe that you believe there are no good men out there. I'm not sure I can help you.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. And she was stunned. She's like, well, but I thought you could do. I said, well, I can't do anything about what you believe. But if you are able to be open to shift your beliefs and see something different, then yeah, we can probably work together. And it was funny. A lot of people have heard me tell the story, but just since we're talking about it, I sent her out and I just gave her one assignment. I told her next time she goes to work, just look around and notice who's noticing her. And she's like, well, I've seen everybody. I'm like, just do what I say. You just pay me all this money. Just do what I say. And lo and behold, she finds this guy on a bench who is checking her out. And they lock eyes. He calls her over. They go out. She had an amazing time. That guy ends up being her boyfriend. And she's like, you have a voodoo doll. I said, I don't have a voodoo doll. I said, you made your own magic happen.
Yeah, it is belief.
It's
if you believe it's going to fail, you're right.
100%. But like, what would you say? I mean, we're talking because we've learned, I have my hero's journey or heroine's journey and you have yours, but there's some people who are kind of stuck on the bottom. They haven't peaked, over. How do you kind of get out of that dark place?
Well, I hope I haven't peaked.
You haven't peaked?
I hope I haven't,
True.
I'm enjoying life, but yeah. I'm praying it's not over.
Well, there's peaks and valleys for sure. Yeah.
There is peaks and valleys. And they come often. A friend of mine said, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because when you think everything's going right,
yeah,
it's just about to go into the shitter. So I like to, after you've done it enough times, after you've had, and as I say, after you've realized that the great relationships you had were actually bad ones, pretending to be good ones, and when you start going through and you start going, well, hang on a minute, was the problem me or was it how I saw it? You start questioning yourself.
Mm.
And I think the only time that we ever actually fail, because I haven't failed at anything, I've just become educated on what didn't work. I think the only time you fail and you become a loser is when you stop and accept it. But when you're in that dark zone and you're trying to have a relationship, you're trying to set up a business, you're trying to set up a brand, you're trying to get out there, you're trying to find a reason to get up, stick on the lipstick and step out the door, then ask yourself, what would be the outcome if I didn't?
Yeah.
And I think you'll find that the scarier situation is stopping. Because everything else is learning. A friend of mine once said a statement to me that stopped me in my tracks. He said, the definition of hell is to meet the man or woman you could have been. So when you're in that dark zone, you're like, oh, it's shit. Oh, I don't want to go out to another party. Oh, I don't want to go out on another date. Well, what's the alternative?
Mm-hmm.
And that will quite often be darker and scarier. And everyone's got fear. Everyone's got fear. And I remember being a kid and watching this man movie, Point Break. And in it, and I've actually, a friend, name dropping here, a friend of mine, Keanu Reeves, was in that movie. And we actually have spoken about Point Break so many times because in there was a line. Fear causes hesitation and hesitation will cause your worst fears to come true. Now that single line, when you hesitate and you go, I'm not sure if I go, it may be bad. It's too late. You've already started momentum. It's going to be. So you've got to crack in. And we all know everything. We all know the classic line. It's never as bad as what we thought it was going to be. You know, write it, educate. You just don't know. But if you stop, you do know.
Yeah. I love it. And it does take practice. I mean, it's the only way that you're going to get confident in something is to do it over and over and over again until you become it. And, and exactly what you said, it's like, it's already bad. When people who are fearful of going out, I'm like, I always tell people, I'm like, it can't get any worse than it is right now. Like you're already in that victim isolation, whatever it is. So it's so true. Okay. So let's say now people are kind of getting over themselves and they're getting out there. Now what? Right? Like, so you're out in the playground and we've established that it's a positive thing. How did you go about making these like powerful connections and how can other people too?
So the first thing is, and we'll play the game with you, which I know I'm going to lose, by the way. Okay. So we live near each other, okay? We discovered that a while back, okay? So if I said to you, hey, we're both local, I'm having a barbecue party this Saturday night, I really want you to come to my barbecue party, and you say yes, what is the first question you ask me once I've invited you?
Well, what are the details? Where do you live? What time?
All right, okay,
Yeah.
so this is my address. I need you to be there at 8:00. That's when we're starting. What's the next question you ask me?
Great. Can I bring anything?
If I invite you somewhere, your response is, what can I bring to the party? Most people is, what am I going to get out of the party? Who's going to be at the party? Now, I said to you, I guarantee I'm going to lose with you. And maybe someone's going to call this sexist, and I don't care. Guys get it wrong, girls get it right every single time. I've done that barbecue game. I've done it on video. I've done it on stage. I've done it in seminars. I always look for like the meathead of the crew to go, hey, you want to play a game? And it's always like, what time is it? Will there be celebrities? Can I take photographs? What food you're serving? Will there be alcohol? And then like when he gets to about his ninth, he'll be, can I bring anything? 8 questions that look after him. 8 selfish questions before one comes up that actually benefits me. When you enter into a relationship, you want to go, hey, I'd really like to, let's say for sake, I wanted to be on your podcast and we didn't know each other. And I'd be like, hey, I heard the podcast the other day. Fantastic podcast. Really enjoyed it. I wanted to ask you, would you be open to me actually sharing it with my community? Now, if I was to offer to do that, what would you say?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. I'd
Yeah.
love to do it. In fact, maybe even there's a way that I could get my community. Maybe I could interview. How many times during that conversation are you going to be thinking, well, maybe I should have this guy on my podcast? You see, if you can show up with value, and this is a big thing, so I want to pause on this for dramatic effect. And this is why, and you've met me, and for anyone that doesn't have the benefit of seeing me on video, not the kind of guy you want to see walking down the street on a dark night. I'm not warm and fuzzy. I lost my Brad Pitt stunning good looks at birth. So
okay, I beg to differ. You guys could all go to YouTube and check him out. He's not as bad as he's saying. But anyway, continue.
All right. Okay. So I'm a big scary biker, as simple as that. All right. But when you turn up with value, all of a sudden what you look like is irrelevant. Now, I know we're in the dating game, so someone's got to look good and someone's got, but when you can turn up with all the joy, persona, love, jokes, that's where the substance is. That's where a relationship is built, on the value and what you can bring to the table. Always focus on the value. What do I bring to the relationship rather than what am I taking away?
This is so brilliant and in so many ways, because actually we're speaking to two kinds of people, because you're right. Like on one hand, there's people who think of what's in it for me, but I actually work with a lot of people who are, it's almost the opposite, where they don't see their value. They don't see their worth. And so what they're doing is they go into a situation, they see a pretty girl or hot guy, and they'll say, what if they don't like me? What if this? What if that? You know, and that's really the conversation in the head. And so what you're saying is so brilliant, and even realize is that you first have to even see what you bring to the table and see your self-worth before you can even offer it. And so what a beautiful exercise to even do, because if you approach people based on what it is that you want, not like worried about what they want, it's a totally different dynamic.
Yeah, I think I would not want to meet the partner that they thought that they deserved. You know, because that would be quite a scary person to meet, wouldn't it? And we've all got that self-doubt. And I remember meeting my girlfriend, you know, that became my wife, and thinking, oh my God, you know, how the hell am I here? It wasn't a case of, oh, you know, she's too good for me. Yes. You know, oh, she's way out of my league. Yes. It was a case of, that means she's the one I got to go for, you know? And so, you know, you've always got to shoot for the stars. You've always got to up your standards. You've just got to think, okay, how can I deserve this time? How can I make this person want to keep me here in their galaxy at the moment? What can I bring to the party? Ask yourself those things.
That's beautiful. And it's also taking bold action, right? Like what you did with your girl. And by the way, I want to hear more of that. I mean, there's a level of bold action, and a lot of guys listening to this would be like, oh, I could never do that. You know, so tell us a little more, like, how did that happen?
Again, you know, you see this beautiful girl and you sit there and you go, oh, that could never be me. You're right. You know, oh my God, I could never walk up to her and ask her. Great. Then stand there like Billy No Mates on the corner of the bar and enjoy your life. The position you are in is far scarier than the 2 seconds of interaction you're going to get with that person that's lit your lights up. You know, live for that moment. I want to be the moth that goes towards a flame. You know, I would go out to a club, and I would go to a bar, and I was in East London, and I'd see girls that, you know, let's just say were known for, you know, being accommodating. And I'm like, that's not the lady I want to be with, you know. And I would see other people that were maybe not the prettiest in the planet. I'm not the prettiest in the planet, but hey, I don't think we should be allowed to breed. And I just had this kind of standard that the person's got to ignite me. And it's got to be someone that's possibly going to be so far out of my standards that I'm going to be spending the entirety of my life trying to get up to theirs. And you get more out of you. And I had chatted up loads of girls, not through bravado, not through confidence, and we're doing a podcast now. So we're on stage.
Right.
I'm an introverted guy. I live up in the hills. I adopt dogs. I ride motorcycles. I don't want to be talking to. I like looking like this because 90% of the time people will avoid me. Great. It works.
It didn't work on me, by the way, but go ahead.
Well, you see through that stuff. But when I've got the chance of actually being able to have a moment with someone that actually almost scares me, then the apprehension and the fear of staying in the same place is greater than me taking the shot. And I tried chatting up people and it would fail. And do you know what that failure taught me? How to have a better conversation. How to have a better question. If you think you're pretty shit at one-liners, maybe you are. How do you get better? By keep doing them. Keep on refining it. If you want a good answer, ask a fantastic question. So learn how to communicate. It all comes down to the basic principle. And you said this at the beginning. As woke as we think we are, we've not developed or evolved from the necessity for two people to connect.
Yeah.
Two guys, two girls, a guy, a girl, whatever. Don't care about any of that. Two people, like-minded, to connect and become one. Okay? That's what we want. And so knowing that that's what they want as well, you just got to play the game. Try many. Try often. You only know the greatest bottle of wine by drinking half a dozen. So same concept with dating. Get out there often and fine-tune your craft to meet the one that scares you.
I love it. Meet the one that scares you. That's a line right there. Well, you know what's so great, and for you listening, I hope you're hearing him. There's a theme with you, which is how you built your business which is how you made connection, is that you're always reaching higher. Like you go for the one that scares you. You go to the one that's not comfortable. You go to the one that has that feeling in your stomach where you're like, ooh, like what's that? And that is such good advice because, I think so many times people play it safe, right? They just go right at the level where they're at. But like you said, no one changes in a state of comfort. You only change in a state of discomfort. And by reaching to the highest potential, by reaching for something that you really, really think is like not reachable, that's the person you should go for, because that's where the abundance is too.
I'll give you a little funny thing that the kind of my eye opened up to something. When you go for someone that you think is higher than your punching average, and you get into a conversation with them, other people of that standard of the one starts looking at you going, how come he's in? What's he all about?
Yeah.
I often said to my wife, I said to her, obviously this was comedic and many, many, many years into our relationship, that I did so well at getting the girl's eyeballs the second I started going out with her, because all the other girls wanted to know how come I was in that relationship. I said, never looked at me. I'd been in that bar for freaking ever, and all of a sudden I'm getting the girls like bumping into me, saying hello and stuff like that. And it wasn't because of me, it was because of Claire. So, when you raise your standards, everyone wants to know why. So you may lose that one that you're trying to connect with, but the others will be like, how come he's in the game?
You gain so much more. Yeah, it's that social status too that you're talking about. That's fantastic. And I think, you mentioned that you were an introvert. It's so funny because I literally I had a question in my mind to ask you if you were or you weren't, because a lot of my clients are introverts. So they're listening to you right now. How do you get out of your head and actually when socialization seems just so painful on some levels, and that's what they tell me a lot, to become more extroverted in social situations?
I wait. I think introverts, we have a talent, and I don't think introverts pay themselves enough compliments because of it.
I
The
love it.
good thing about an introvert is we're very calculative with our time and our energy. And we're like, oh, I don't want to go out. This won't happen. I don't want to do that because, that'll happen. And then that'll happen. There's all these questions that go. Have you
Mhm.
noticed that extroverts will just run into a room regardless?
Yes,
Okay.
that's me.
But an introvert, we will calculate whether or not it's worthwhile being in that room.
Yes. And
Okay.
you're wondering what the purpose is too.
Yes. But the
Right.
good thing is, because of that calculative mindset, you can go, well, okay, let's weigh it up. If I step into that room, the worst thing that's happened is I push myself forward. I've gone across an uncomfortable threshold. I may meet someone in there. They may just be a good conversation. I could get one joke out. I think one of the problems is a lot of people go into a bar, a club, an environment going, where's my wife? Where's my husband?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you go into there just looking for a good conversation?
Thank you.
You know, break it. Don't put yourself on so much of of this intensity that's going to potentially break you down if it doesn't work. Go in there and go, hey, this may not be where my future Mrs. Sims is, but this is maybe where I'll learn a funny joke. Maybe this is where I'll have a great cocktail. Maybe this is where I'll find the hors d'oeuvres do the best bacon wrapped sausages. Just bring yourself down to something that's going to be of benefit. And I would go into a room and as an introvert, go, okay, I need to get 2 jokes and a good story. And I know it sounds funny, but I would go in there and I'm like, 2 jokes and a good story, 2 jokes and a good story. And I go in there and people are like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm here to hear a good joke. Do you know a good joke? And I'd put them on the spot. And they'd be like, actually, my son told me this dad joke, and I'll tell you. And it would break the ice. And the amount of people I would go around going, hey, I'm here to get 2 jokes and a good story. I've already got 2 jokes. Have you got a story? Why are you here? And if you notice, what I do is I quickly get them talking.
Yeah.
I'm here to get 2 jokes and a good story. What do you got? I got a joke. Bring it. And then I would do that. So as an introvert, go in with that kind of thing. You could go in saying, look, I'm trying to find out the best hamburger joint in the area. I thought, hey, this is a room full of locals. Where's the best hamburger joint? That may work, but you've got something, because we always get nervous. But then look at the alternative. Don't step over that threshold. Don't take a risk. Don't get a decent cocktail or a decent joke, and go home and be guaranteed of that result.
Yeah. Love
So do
that.
you want a chance, happiness,
Mm-hmm.
or do you want to guarantee Billy No Mates and a takeaway Indian?
Right. Oh my God. And I promise you listening, I did not prompt him to do any of that. Like, you don't even know this. Like the stuff that you're saying is exactly like what I say all the time to the cosmo. And you know what's so cool is that, I've been studying dating trends in 2024. And one of the trends right now, which I'm so happy about because I've been teaching this for years, is to not be outcome driven and oriented and like going into a date thinking, could this be my long-term partner? Just going and they're calling it mindfulness dating, where you're just really present and saying, hey, do I like this person? Do I like the way they make me feel? The rest, you'll have plenty of time to figure out the rest.
Yeah.
Right. So I love that. All right. So I know, oh my God, we could do this forever, but I'm noticing the time. Um, I have to ask about, like, do you have like a funny celebrity story or, one where you actually connected with somebody that you never dreamed would happen, or any kind of story around that?
Yeah. When I had the concierge firm, and again, that's how my book got its title, Go for Stupid. When I had my concierge firm, we used to take people's requests and then we would be like, well, how can we make this stupid? How can we make this ridiculous? Not impossible. Okay. How can we have fun with this? How can we make it a stupid request? And I had a client that wanted to have a dining experience in Florence that could never be repeated. Well, unless I sent him to a great restaurant and then burnt the restaurant down, how could it not be repeated? Um, so we thought, how can we do it? And we decided, how can we make that stupid? Dining experience, not restaurant. Dining experience. That opened. It could be in a field, could be in a mansion, could be in anything. But he wanted it in Florence. So where's the most iconic place in Florence? What is the most iconic thing in Florence? Michelangelo's David, the world's most famous statue. But could we really set up a table of 6 feet and set at the feet of Michelangelo's David for dinner? Why not? How do we find out if we can or not? We ask the question. So we contacted them and we said, look, we've been challenged to create the most amazing dining experience in Florence. We would love this location because personally, I don't know of anywhere else that could do this. Anywhere we go after here will be second, third, fourth, fifth. But I don't want that. I want the place that wakes up at 2:00 in the morning in 10 years' time and goes, are you kidding? We did that. Do you want to be part of that story? And so I spoke to them like that, and they went, sure, let's do it. And so we did that, and I have to admit, got it really quickly. Stunned, got it really quickly. And then I'm sat there going, well, we got it now. The event's in like 4 days' time, 3 days' time, actually. What now?
Now what? I was just going to say, now what do you do?
I've got the location. I've got the chef, got the statue, got the photographer. And that entrepreneur thing in you just makes you click and go, okay, I've got it. Okay, I've got the private jet. How can I make it prettier? Oh, I've got the fast car. How can I make it faster? The entrepreneur likes to find a way of how can we do what we've got. And I thought, hang on, I need entertainment. And so I phoned up a friend of mine and I said, look, who's the most amazing? When you think of an Italian singer, name one. Now, of course, a lot of people would name Pavarotti. He passed away quite a while ago, so he's not getting out much. But Bocelli, he lives in Florence. And I'm like, ooh, hang on. And I remember contacting Andrea Bocelli's manager because I didn't know who he was. And I contacted them and I went, hey, I'm having a dinner party for 6 people at the feet of Michelangelo's David. How cool would it be if Andrea Bocelli came out and serenaded them while they're eating their main course? And the manager just laughed at me and went, that sounds great. We'll call you back. And then hung up on me. Didn't take my name, didn't take my phone number, had no way of calling me back. So I knew I was done there. And, relationships are great. And I've got some pretty good relationships over my years. And one of the relationships I had was with the Vatican. So I contacted them and I went, you ever dealt with Andrea Bocelli? And she said, yeah. Wouldn't mind putting a phone call in for me, would you? And she did. And it was about maybe half hour later, I got Veronica Bocelli call me and she was like, when do you want him there? And so I was sat in the Academia next to David. The entire museum was empty apart from us. Andrea Bocelli's on my left and then Veronica's on his left. And I'm just sat there in this museum that I owned for the night. The table had already been set up, but the guests weren't going to turn up for another 2 hours. Just absolutely in awe of where I was, a bricklayer from East London that's now sitting in his own museum with Andrea Bocelli. So that's the kind of little goosebumps. And I was just like a little child.
Wow. Oh, and what a great way to end the episode, because all the things that you did is exactly what we're talking about, even with dating. I mean, taking bold action, going after what you want, not giving up, not buying into rejection, right? Using other people and friends to connect you in a different way. And like all of those lessons are so important when it comes to making that connection count, as we said.
Yeah.
So, Steve, this is so great. I could talk to you forever. But I don't know if you want to leave the audience with any words of wisdom. I mean, there were so many today, but last words, and also where people can find you, plug your book, plug anything you want.
Well, let's give them all. Let's give them all of those things in one link. go to the website, Go for Stupid. You can follow me on Steve D. Sims anywhere, stevedsims.com, Instagram, Steve D. I'm Steve D. Sims everywhere. But go to goforstupid.com and you'll get my book for free. There's no hook, there's no lead magnet. It's a case of I videoed the book so I could drag the audio off to make the audio book, meant that I ended up with all 12 chapters of me reading the book. So we just stuck them online so people could get it for free. Go and get it, watch it, and do something with it. And understand that a relationship is a relationship, whether it be in business or in a bar. What do you bring to the table?
I love it. Steve, awesome. I can't wait to get my book. So thanks for joining me today. This has been the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, of course, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And if you want help overcoming fears and challenges of meeting people in the wild, as we've been talking about, in person, I have just the workshop for you coming up soon, and that is August 28th, but it depends on when you're listening to this. So check it out by going to stophatingdating.com. That's stophatingdating.com. And you'll see that I am offering a workshop called How to Meet People in Real Life, because I have a lot of requests lately that you are wanting to meet people organically, but you're just not sure how to go, where to go, and what to do. And this is a co-ed interactive workshop to give you the best tips for confidently navigating the social scene without anxiety and uncertainty. And it's more than just about dating. It's about changing the way you mingle, present yourself, and connect daily so you can date with confidence. So just click that link I told you that is in the show notes. You also can go to stophatingdating.com and hurry because, as always, seats are limited, but I would love to see you live there. And here's a treat I have for you. If you are wanting to take it one step further, and you want to learn how to meet people in real life, in the wild, in real life, then I'm excited to announce my next retreat. It's called Dating IRL in Real Life, and that is coming up in October. So if you're interested, go to askkimmy.com and inquire about it. I'll hop on a call to see if it's something that makes sense. And if it's a match, I would love to invite you to it. I'm already halfway full, so definitely contact me sooner than later if interested. And this is going to be the best opportunity I can create for you to really learn this stuff. I mean, I am bringing in bachelors to practice with ladies. We're going to do flirt coaching and makeovers and all kinds of things. So people who know about my retreats, they know the transformation because it's not about the destination. It's about the transformation. So hop on a call with me. And remember, working on you is working on your dating life. That's all for now.